What happens if your life is forever impacted by a natural disaster? So my family and I were impacted by the Marshall Fire in Boulder County, Colorado, December 30th, 2021. I've been documenting this. It's been 18 months. I have stopped a little bit. However, I'm going to keep talking about it because the survival part and the rebuilding, it takes a long time, and I did not know that. Well, the day my house burned down, I had no idea that 18 months later, I would still be talking about it. I would still be dealing with it. It's just a long process. And then every day, not every day, but there just is so many wildfires right now where we are moving to in Roatan, Honduras was impacted by the mainland wildfires, which was like, come on. And then now Canada has wildfires all over the place that are, affecting Canadians, and then a lot of people in the United States and kind of all over the country. So I feel like unfortunately, it's still very relevant. And this is kind of a how-to guide in what I have done from one survivor to the next. It's been 18 months. I've learned a lot of things that I never thought I needed to learn, but hey, here we are. So this is kind of a summary of what I've learned over the last 18 months. Right now we are standing in what, was my house and now is being rebuilt. We are at the framing stage 18 months later. It took a long time to get to this point, and I'm very grateful to be at this point. I'm also very tired. But let's go back to the beginning. If you are, new to living in a disaster, this is the life. So right after you are impacted by a disaster, the first thing is always to get to safety, and then get your family safe and find a hotel, find a family or friends to stay with. And then what we need to do is we need to start regrouping, or just getting all your ducks in a row, if you will. And so that usually means getting IDs, getting passports or documents like that, marriage certificates, birth certificates. I would say that's one of the first things that I needed to do was I needed to be able to identify who I am. And if you're going to be in the process of dealing with FEMA or any state government or federal government, you're going to need all of your IDs, and especially even if you want a FEMA number, which if you want any FEMA assistance in Colorado, we had to get a FEMA number. And a lot of times you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what you need in that early aftermath of a disaster. And it's a disaster, and it's called a disaster for a reason, and we'll just keep it at that. And that FEMA number is going to be very, very important because it's going to affect so many things from your day-to-day to filing taxes. So get all of those documents. You can order most of them online. Some of the time the government will reimburse you. I don't know if we were reimbursed for anything. University of Colorado did reprint my diploma for me, which was really nice. So I guess that was convenient that I graduated really close to where the fire was, but I think we ended up paying for all the documents because it was just such a raging pain to go through any of the government programs. I'm not saying wrong, right, or otherwise. It's going to be a very hard time in your life, and it's just do what you need to do and don't feel bad about not doing everything. No one does everything right. I certainly rarely do anything right when it comes to this wildfire situation, but here we are 18 months later and the house is being rebuilt. So theoretically we're doing really good, guys. So, it's just I think we've survived and done so decent with the silver lining and being like, we do get to rebuild the house. Even though it was only 5 months old, we got to move some walls around and do some minor things. But back to the list and back to the things that need to get done. The IDs are very, very important. And also, I had no idea the bottom feeders I've got a lot of opinions of these scammers, and it's one thing to run a scam, but it's another thing to prey on people that are victims of a disaster at the worst part of their life. that's when these scammers come in, kind of, well, there's a lot of them. And so when you get all your documents, make sure you keep them safe, and make sure, and you need to get them right away so no one else is gonna take them from you. And there are going to be so many scams, so many people are gonna call you, act like they care about you, act like you're their friend, say, oh, they're gonna be the savior, blah, 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 blah. I got so many of those calls, and I had no idea these were scumbags. These were not very many of them were actually genuine. And then the people that were actually there to help me, let's just be honest here, they're government workers and not always super friendly. And so it's like, all right, who's actually helping me? Oh, you're gonna let me be a shoulder to cry on. You're probably a scammer. But if you're impatient with me because I can't find my FEMA number, you probably work for the government, and hey, you're probably legitimately here to help me. So maybe that's some cynicism, but it's been 18 months. I'm tired. I'm still talking about it. So let's keep going. So getting your ID, your paperwork, be very, very careful for scams. You will become a mark. And I did not know that. And I'm not trying to say that to scare somebody. I'm trying to say that to warn you. And we were one of the 8% that was fully insured, because I had a financial advisor do my insurance. I'm a realtor, so I'm in the industry, and we were fully insured for all of the damage. Now we can talk about collateral damage, where we are not in a great place, but we're gonna get to that. We're just not there yet. We're in the immediate aftermath of a wildfire. So also dealing with insurance, I really hope that you had insurance, and I hope that you did have good insurance. If you did not, well, let's just say you have insurance, receipts. Keeping receipts is going to make everything easier. If you can use a credit card, use a credit card. I'm not saying blow up your credit card bill by any means. It's just the tracking. And if you pay for cash with stuff, it's really hard to track, and you're going to have more issues with it. Things just seem to move a lot better if you do use a credit card. So those receipts are super important. If you stay at a hotel more than 30 days, you get a lot of your taxes back. So that will save you a lot of money. I'm walking down some stairs, and I'm gonna try to not trip. Next on that receipt thing is going to be, you're gonna have to create a personal property list, or everything that was in your home, you're going to have to list it. And that means anything and everything. Now you can take kind of like the standard deduction, kind of like you're doing taxes, right? But if you itemize it, you're gonna get a lot more money. So in the state of Colorado, where I lost my home, we actually don't have to prove anything that we had it in the house. So we don't have to show pictures. We don't have to do anything. Now, what's nice, I would back everything up. And even if you're still listening to this video and haven't been impacted by a natural disaster, put everything in the cloud. I pay $10 a month for, I think, 10 terabytes, or I don't know. Everything of mine was in the cloud, so it was really easy. I shop a lot at Amazon, so I did have that proof for all my personal property. And I take videos like this, and I documented my entire house being built, so it made life a lot easier. But not everyone's gonna be that meticulous, or, do videos for a living, or be in the real estate industry to where I film my house a lot. So that kind of worked out pretty well in our favor, but that list for the personal property. And I will also say the hardest part at the beginning for me, other than getting over the fact that, well, my house burned down and my cats were inside. So that really sucked, and you can't get them back. And so that's an awful part of it. And it's still, that's never gonna be okay. I'm just walking outside so you can also see the state of our neighborhood 18 months later, but it's nice and green. We've had a ton of snow, or not snow, we had a ton of snow and rain, hail yesterday. Luckily not in this neighborhood, so I didn't have to worry about the roof, which would have just been insult to injury, but I digress. The personal property, that for me, other than, the initial shock of being like, oh crap, my cats are dead, and I lost all my possessions, that personal property list was one of the hardest things that I had to do, because it wasn't just going through your property. I mean, it sucked losing a lot of Louis Vuitton, some of it limited edition that you can't get anymore, even if you tried. those things don't really matter. At the beginning, I was like, frick, you know how much money I spent on that? But at the end of the day, the personal property list also helped me grieve, because I got to relive those memories of those items that I had. And that's one of the harder parts, you know, losing the limited edition designer stuff is, as hard as that is, it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. It's what I noticed is the items that I had, it wasn't really the items, but stuff that family members that had passed on. It was the memories associated with those items that just, that's what sucks, and that's what was taken and we will never get back. And that personal property list was probably the hardest thing I had to do in the immediate aftermath, and it was because it was forced me to grieve. It forced me to deal with it, which sucked. But you know, hey, this is about a survivor video, so we're just going to be honest about it. So after that list, getting in contact with FEMA, start that process. Now we also got in touch with the SBA. The SBA, we applied for everything. I don't know if I would do that if I were you. If I would do that again, I would. It's difficult because you have so many deadlines and you don't know what you're going to need and when you're going to need it. So we applied for everything with FEMA. And then, because at the time we were gainfully employed and had all those things going for us, we were denied on FEMA because we made too much money and we were insured. So it's like, well, bummer. But hey, it's good to have a job, or had a job. So it's been a long 18 months. So, but we did qualify for all the SBA subsidized loans, and that was at the time up to $240,000, which was great. So we got that, and in order to start the process, you have to put a lien on a house. Theoretically, not the house that just burned down, but you can use the house that you just lost some of the time. The issue with that is, you take out a $240,000 lien on your house. What happens if you don't actually qualify for the $240,000, which we did not qualify for? So now we have a $240,000 lien on our house, and then we didn't get that $240,000 because we didn't qualify for it. But because it's the government, it's still not closed. So we still have that inflated lien, but we didn't get all the money. I think we got $108,000, which is wonderful, and it helps. But we are now, if we go to try to borrow money or move on, get a mortgage, another mortgage to buy another house, move on, we can't do that because we've got this damn lien. And the government, it's still 18 months later, it still hasn't readjusted. So we're just SOL. So that's one of the other hard parts that I did not anticipate, or part of the collateral damage, is we applied for all these things, FEMA, SBA, and now we don't qualify for a mortgage or to get a loan. And I'm in the industry, which means if anyone's going to figure out how to do it, it's going to be me. And we're just SOL. So not only did our house burn down, we have nowhere to live. We now can't move on. And that's, well, that part really sucks. So